but we could be alone. Between cities,
I'm not going to make you listen to 4 minutes of this song. I'm just making sure everything's cool with the stream.
Do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go and I wanna know. Do you wanna follow? Baby.
Yeah, but the real question is, which of my intro music do you like better?
Come with me.
Or this one? I don't know. Hey everybody, I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. Sorry for being a little late this morning. I blame Alex. Alex was setting up the sound. No, I can't blame Alex for this one. Alex has done a great job this morning. See, the sound is good. Everything is great. It's me. I was just, anyway, here I am. I was cleaning my pool. I've been surprised at how much of an interest people take in my pool in my videos. People are like, screw the flight characteristics. Your pool is green. I know my pool is green. It was the winter. What are you going to do? Anyway. It is Sunday afternoon. It's 1-ish p.m. I'm Joshua Bardwell. This is my Q&A live stream, and in case you're new here, you ask questions. I do my best to answer them. Just real quick. Whoop, here we go. Here's what I got on my main screen. I've got... Now, the pool is not green, Collusion X. The pool is actually nearly... Hang on a second. Because we got to talk about what's important. The pool is nearly... It's almost ready. Like in 2 days, it will be ready for people to get into it. The chlorine level is good. We had to bring the CYA up a little bit because the CYA level, cyanuric acid, was a little too low. So we've been shocking it for like the last week. Finally, it passed the shock, and now we got to get the CYA up. We got to balance the pH. We got to get the free chlorine back up, and it's going to be ready. But it is crystal clear right now. It's clean. It's good. You guys are not going to see another video with a dirty pool until winter, and then it'll get dirty again. Because if you have an above-ground pool, people out there with above-ground... This is not what the Q&A is supposed to be about. People out there with above-ground pools, how do you keep them clean over the winter? Because you can't run the pump because the pump will freeze. And so we just freaking drain it and then just, we just let it go to shit. Anyway... He started 10 minutes late, then he talked about his pool for 5 minutes. I thought this had to do with quadcopters. I don't know. Here's what I got on my screen, in case you're wondering. Here, I got the YouTube chat. Oh my God, someone in YouTube just died a little bit inside. I got the YouTube chat right here. I'm going to be answering as many of your questions as I can, but those questions come fast and furious. See, look, they're already coming about so fast, I can't get to them all. If you feel like throwing a little bit of support my way, and if you feel like making sure that your question gets pulled out, just click this little $ right here. Throw a couple bucks at me. Your question gets pulled out into the super chat. Here we've already got 50 Norwegian kroners. One of my favorite foreign currencies is the kroner. I've talked about that on other streams. And I will make sure to get these questions. Oh, no question today, though. Thank you, MomP87. And I am also monitoring. Yep, I have a Discord. Hello, Discord. I have a Discord server. It is open to my patrons. So if you want to join the Discord server, go ahead down. There's a link to my Patreon in Patreon, however you want to say it, however I want to say it. Down in the video description, if you join up, you get an invite to my Patreon. And there you go. Then life goes on. So let's get to the questions. And what I want to do... Oh, DKK. Thank you, Benjamin Weber. Danish kroner. Benjamin, the Swedish kroner is the only one I was aware of. But Danish kroner, sure. I just like the sound of kroner. Sounds like a pastry you might eat. Can I get one of those? Can I get one of those cheese kroners over at Starbucks? Insulting the money of a whole sovereign nation. So insulting. Okay, here's how I want to start. I actually have a question that I was going to make a video about yesterday, and I want to try and troubleshoot because I'm going to forget it, and I want to try and troubleshoot this. This is a question from one of my patrons, and it has to do with a problem he's having with his quad. So what I want to do is jump over to this screen, and I want to just take a look, and let's take this as question number 1. Why is this quadcopter doing this? Let's watch. Let's see if we can... Well, it's not synced up. Sorry. First thing I need to do is sync it up. So in case you've never done black box log analysis before, you got to sync up the video with the log. And what I'm doing is I'm looking for the point. I'm using this little playhead here to look for the point. There we go, where he takes off. Let's look for the point where he arms. Okay, so that's right where he arms. I can tell from the from the sound. And I'm going to just click start log here, and let's just see if it seems to be roughly synced up. I'm going to look at the sticks here and see if the sticks seem to move approximately right with the quad. Yeah, it seems like it's reasonably well synced up. So now that we got them synced up, let's take a look at the problem that this guy's having. Remember when I used to do whole live streams of nothing but black box log analysis? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Hang on. So what we're looking for, he's having some bounce back issues with flips and rolls. I still haven't seen it. Teflon, if you are, Teflon's in the chat. Oh, sorry, it's a little loud. Sorry, guys. Let me turn that down a little bit. I'm turning the volume down. Apologize for that. No, my bad. It's fixed. Sorry, I cannot. Let me hear a lot of the live stream sounds. That's better. Apologize for that, guys. He's having some bounce back. Is that audio better, guys? We're not seeing it. Am I looking at the right log, my friend? Betaflight 02. Yeah, I am. Hey, Teflon, give me a timestamp. Hang on a second, guys. I don't want to make you guys sit here through 3 minutes of this, so I'm pinging him in Discord to give me a timestamp where the issue happens, so we'll come back to that. Okay, let me see if he can go through the video and give me a timestamp. In the meantime, I'll get some questions from the chat. Hello, everybody. Why is 6S better than 4S? Asks Albert91TGN. Why is 6S better than 4S? I understand it feels better, but why in technical terms? I get the feeling the only reason people prefer it is because they use higher watt-hour batteries without realizing it. Albert, I understand that a lot of the time you've seen people, including me, when we compare 6S to 4S, we're using a higher watt-hour battery. So just to bring everybody onto the same page here, when you compare batteries of the same voltage, then a higher milliamp hour pack is a bigger pack. It has more energy. But when you compare batteries of different voltages, milliamp hours doesn't tell the whole tale, because 1,000 milliamp hours at 50 volts is more energy than 1,000 milliamp hours at 12 volts. I mean, that should just sort of intuitively make sense to you. As you crank the volts up, the milliamp hours are able to do more work. So the right way to compare batteries of different voltages by measuring the watt hours, and that's done by, well, it's usually just, I used to have some here, but I don't. It's usually just printed on the side of the pack. And a 1,500 milliamp hour 4S is approximately the same watt hours as a 1,000 milliamp hour 6S, but a lot of people are comparing like a 1250 milliamp hour 6S to a 1,500 milliamp hour 4S, and they get longer flight times and say, oh, well, 6S is better. But other people rightly criticize that to say you're using a bigger battery. The equivalent watt hours of a 1250 6S is more like an 1,800 milliamp hour 4S. That's a completely valid criticism. I will say this, though. I have done bench tests on batteries of exactly, well, not exactly, but close to the same watt hours. And I found that the 1,800 I tested a 1,500 milliamp hour 4S, a 1100 milliamp hour 6S, an 1800 milliamp hour 4S, a 1250 milliamp hour 6S. Okay, so sort of all the different ways of slicing it up. And the 1800 milliamp hour 4S actually did the worst. It did the worst in that particular test. To people who say, why don't you use equivalent watt hours? I say, why does nobody fly 1800 milliamp hour 4S? Nobody. And that question brings in the real world considerations, because in a perfect bench test, we would manufacture exactly equivalent 6S and 4S packs and we would test them. But in reality, we don't always have the option to buy exactly equivalent. It may be if you could get an exactly equivalent 1800 milliamp hour 4S pack, it would be just as good as a 6S 1250. But maybe that pack just doesn't exist. I don't know. I can tell you this. When Alex Vanover tried, this was over a year ago, but Alex Vanover at, it was a national level race. I don't remember exactly which race it was, but everybody was moving to 6S at that time, and he said, I'm going to buck the trend. And Alex tried to race 1800 milliamp hour 4S. He was like, this is going to be better. He could not keep up. And he's a hell of a good racer. He was overcharging his 4S packs to 4.5, 4.6, 4.7 volts per cell, and one of them eventually lit on fire and tried to burn down the pits, which we will never let him live down. My point is that Alex Vanover tried to race equivalent watt hour 4S, the best 1800 milliamp hour 4S he could find, and he could not keep up with other racers who were racing 1256S and so on. Now, that was a year ago. Maybe batteries have gotten better. I think this is definitely worth re-examining, but I don't accept the argument that the reason people think 6S is better is just because they're just, oh, wow, they just happen to be using bigger packs and don't notice. Because I've tried using 1800 4Ss and I hate them. You know why I've never flight tested an 1800 4S against a 1256S? Because I've flown 1800 4Ss before and I hate the way the quad flies. Anything bigger than about 1500, 1600 milliamp hours just isn't worth it. Maybe it's worth re-examining though. Okay, enough about that. Now, Jeff Cart, you're right. Not everyone is racing. It's true. But if you want to boil down real-world battery performance, racing is a great way to do it, because racers are incredibly consistent in their laps and their lap times. Racers are the closest we can get to an apples-to-apples real-world comparison, and racers have a lot at stake, so they just want to find what works. Anyway, okay, a little treatise on 6S and 4S. By the way, I have some, the 1000 milliamp hour race day quad 6S packs came back into stock and I ordered some. And if they get any more of the 1800 4Ss, I'm going to check them. But for people who saw my recent 6S versus 4S video, I'm going to be re-examining that with an equivalent watt hour pack, and we'll see what happens. Igor Alameda, for beginners, I think 4S is the way to go, because the performance benefits of 6S, although I firmly believe they are there, I will say that 6S packs are still more expensive, maybe 25%, maybe 30% more expensive. So as a beginner, you will do better to buy 4S packs. You probably won't notice the difference in performance, and you'll get more packs, you'll get more flight time, and when you crash and destroy a pack, you won't lose as much money. Honda XR guy, everyone's very interested in what I drink on my live streams. This is just fruit punch soda stream with a juice squirt. It's not even carbonated. I decided drinking carbonated beverages on stream maybe isn't very professional, because it makes you burp, and then people are a little like grossed out. Okay, Johnny the Eagle, my motors were dirty. I cleaned them. Now they're totally clean, but they aren't spinning smooth. Johnny, depending on how you cleaned them, you may have washed the lubricant out of the bearings. If you use something like WD-40 to clean them, then it may have, or any kind of solvent, it may have washed the grease out of the bearings, and the bearings are now shot. If you cleaned them out with air, I mean, there may still be gunk in the bearings. The bottom line is that, I mean, just fly, Johnny. Just see how they fly. Maybe they're fine. Okay, let's take a look. Teflon is trying to give me a timestamp here, going back to this issue. Let's see, Teflon, if we can get this. The timestamp is 3:29:152. Let's see if we can find a dip here. There's a little bobble there. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, a little bobble there at the end of the flips and rolls. Now, let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. And the volume okay? The volume okay? Yeah, okay. Stream. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to look at the gyros, and I want to see what's going on. What is the quad actually doing at the moment when this happens? It's not quite synced up, is it? I can see that it's not. Let's do this. Let's look. Let's just adjust our sync slightly so we can really see what's happening. I'm going to do that by turning on RC command, which is the stick positions. And I should be able to look at the throttle, which is the purple line. Yeah, okay, so you can see it's way off. Where's the moment where we hear the throttle go up? It's like right here. Let me just bump this trace forward slightly and see if we can get this synced up better. Nope, still not quite synced up. Okay, now I can hear from the sound of the motors and looking here at the throttle line that it's pretty well synced. So now let's have a look at what's going on. And what I want to see is this. Here's the first thing I'm looking for. When you're troubleshooting a bounce or a dip or something like that, what I want to know is it dipping towards one motor? Because if a motor or ESC has a problem, it will dip on the diagonal. If the flight controller or the PIDs have a problem, it will often dip towards two motors, the roll axis, the pitch axis, or sometimes the yaw axis will twitch. Anytime you have a quadcopter that dips or drops an arm on the diagonal, I lean towards it being a prop motor or ESC causing the problem. Anytime you have a quadcopter that dips or drops an arm purely on the roll axis, like what are the chances that these two motors would both have a problem at the same time to cause the quad to dip just on the roll axis? That's more likely to be the flight controller. And what we see here by looking at the gyros, well, the gyros kind of all over the place, we see that all three axes are having a problem. We are getting this bounce at the end of the flip on all three axes. Let's see if we slow-mo it. What do we see? Let's set the playback speed to like 15%. It's pretty subtle. Oh yeah, it is. It's just kind of all over the place, isn't it? So the next thing I want to do, I do see that we've got, if we look at RC command decode, we can see that you are inputting some yaw right here. Notice that the yaw RC command line goes off center. And that means that I'm guessing as you drop the throttle stick all the way to 0, you bump it just a little bit. So that is destabilizing. So if we look right here, we can see that as you bump the throttle stick, or the yaw stick, the quad does yaw slightly. So it's kind of being told it's doing what it's being told to do there. But then here at the end, we've got this bump. And the next thing I want to look at is the motors. And I want to see what the motors are doing. Okay, so here is the kicker for me. If we look at the motors, what we would normally see at the end of a flip or roll is as we enter, so take a look up here at the diagram as well as down here at the traces. As we enter the move, we would normally see the outside motors go to full and the inside motors go to 0. And that is the quad entering the move, right? The motors have to push it to enter the move. And then it's completely normal to then see that reverse itself, because what happens is the quad pushes to enter the move really violently and it overshoots the commanded rate. So it's shooting for 1,000 degrees per second and it goes, get there! and then it ends up at 1100 degrees per second, and it goes, whoa, not so fast. So far, as we're entering the move, what we see here is completely normal. Now the motors go to 0, mostly, as the quad spins. And there's a little bit of motion down here, just sort of keeping the quad stabilized within the move. And then as the quad begins to stop rotating, the outside motors go to max. Now, here's the thing that I notice. Notice that the front right motor, the blue motor, goes to max and stays there, while the back right motor drops all the way to 0. This is as clear an indication as we could possibly have that one of the motors is having a problem. And when I tell you which motor it is, some of you are going to get it wrong, because a lot of people are going to think the back right motor, the one that went to 0, is the one that's broken. But the motor outputs that we're looking at here in black box are what the motor is being commanded to do, not what the motor is actually doing. The analogy I like to use is if your brakes went out on your car at the moment that you crashed, what would the brake pedal be doing? The brake pedal would be at 100%, because you would be like, stop! And that's what we're seeing here. What we're seeing here is that motor number 2, the front right motor, has stopped making thrust. And the PID controller is going, give me all you got! It's not enough! And the reason that motor number 1 ramps down is to maintain the balance in thrust between the front right and the front left. So this is a clear indication that motor number 1 is not making thrust. And what has happened is motor number 1 went all the way down to idle during the move. That's normal. And then when the PID controller tried to ramp up to stop the flip, motor number 1 did not come smoothly back to power. So what's the fix for this? The first thing I would do is I would look in the black box at other examples of it and see if it's always motor number 2 that has the problem, or if it is some other motor. If it's always motor number 2, then I suspect that the motor or the ESC is damaged. If it's random motors, the next thing I would do is I would look at your D-Shot digital idle percent, and I would raise the digital idle percent, because when a motor goes all the way down to idle, if the idle speed is too low, it won't start aggressively enough. Okay, there's a little black box log analysis. Alrighty, moving back to the chat. We got some super chats stacking up. Let me clear out these super chats, and then we will get back to the questions in the regular chat. Rokon FPV. Turning on soft serial on a Crazy BF3, it reboots and it just doesn't take. Many Betaflight features have had to be dropped out of F3 processors because the F3 doesn't have enough program memory to hold it. I'm going to guess that soft serial is one of them. F3s are, you're going to find that GPS it doesn't have, LED strip it doesn't have, soft serial maybe it doesn't have. The F3 is really on its last legs of life support, and that's what's happening, I'm afraid. Okay, super chats. $5 from Fear and Loathing in FPV asks, Runcam Split Mini V2 wired up the way you show in your video, but I still have bad lines, flickering OSD, and bad video noise. Fear and Loathing, you say you wired it up the way I show in my video. It's been a long time since I made that video. I have no idea how you wired it up. If you're running the Runcam Split Mini off of 5 volts, it needs to be a really clean and solid 5-volt supply. The Runcam Split Mini V2 can take up to 14 volts input power. Some people run it off of 4S, which if you do the math, you'll see that that's above 14 volts, and it may work, but it may fry it, and you may have bad problems. Bad lines, flickering OSD, and bad video noise. You just got to get clean power into that thing. It's one of the real challenges with the Split Mini. You want to make sure you're at 5 volts. You may benefit from an external, like 9-volt regulator. That's what I would say. If you'll tell me, Fear and Loathing, how you've exactly got it powered, unfortunately I just don't remember how I have it wired up in my video. I make a lot of videos. Then I will try to give you any more advice. Stefan Seidel gives €5.49. Strangely specific number, but thank you, Stefan. Why no CLI commands in my Cinnabee possible? Betaflight version 4.02. I tried to set the VTX power, set VTX power equals 4. I would want to see, Stefan, the exact syntax that you're using to, because, I mean, CLI commands should work in the Cinnabee. It's BCYYT. Go to... It's BC, blah, 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 blah. Asks, what RTF quad should I get? 5-inch, I can fly reasonably well. I have a ready to fly and bind and fly section of my Ultimate FPV shopping list. You can check it out. The short version is, I like the Holybro Kakute. I like the Diatone. I have been recommending the GTM 450, but I think Diatone has a newer one out. But any Diatone 5-inch bind and fly is quite good. And the Holybro Kakute and the Emax Hawk are some of the 5-inch bind and flies that I recommend. Okay, getting back to the question from Stefan. Stefan, the syntax you're going to want to use is, if we just go to the CLI, if I type get VTX power, there it is, and I type set VTX power equals 4. Okay, it worked. And then save. It should be working. So I'm not sure, Stefan, what the exact issue that you're having is when it's not working. But if you type that command, it should work. It should. I mean, you need smart audio set up for it to actually affect your video transmitter. But George Hall, thank you for $2. OSD reads the wrong voltage per cell. George Hall, the reason that your OSD is reading the wrong voltage per cell, I'm going to guess it's because it has guessed the wrong number of cells. So if you go to the power and battery tab, no, it's in the setup tab. No, hang on, there's a place. I think it's in power and battery. It will show you how many cells it has detected. What you need to do, basically what Betaflight does is it takes your cell voltage and it divides it, and it guesses how many cells you have. But a lot of times it will accidentally think that a fully charged 4S is actually a discharged 5S. It'll miscalculate. The way you fix that is that you go to the power and battery tab and you increase the maximum cell voltage. So you take that from 4.3 and you just up it to like 4.4. Okay? And what that does is it causes it to correctly then calculate the number of cells, and then your average cell voltage will also be correct. Thank you, Jarud, for $2. No question, just $2. Thank you. Tectonic Mountain, thanks for $2. Is XT30 enough for the 1606 motors, or do I need XT60? No way to answer that question, really, Tektronic. XT30 can handle 30 amps continuous, and if XT60, I mean, I've pulled 120 amps through an XT60 in my battery testing. I've pulled 120 amps through an XT60 for 45 seconds. It got pretty hot, but it didn't melt. And so, I mean, those connectors can take more than they're strictly rated for, but ultimately there's no way to say how many amps that 1606 is going to pull without knowing what prop you're using and what your all-up weight is. Take a look at the batteries that you're most likely to be using. Are they tending to come with XT30s or XT60s? Because the battery is really the limiting factor in how much current you can pull, if you think about it. You'll notice that all 4S 1500 milliamp hour packs come with an XT60, even if they're like 200C and supposed to be able to do 160 amps. The reality is that they won't do 160 amps for very long, and that's why they come with XT60s. So, John Busk, thank you for SEK, $50. Okay, let's look real quick in the live stream chat. Oh, Bismarck suggests I look at the smooth version, the unsmooth version. What do you think, Mark? Mark thinks the smooth version is lying to me. Here's the unsmooth. So I can hit this right here and turn smoothing off. Smoothing is... Yeah. I mean, it doesn't change my basic assessment, though, does it? Interesting. Both of them start to drop. That's interesting. Why do they drop? about that? I still stand by my conclusion, though. I would check the idle speed first. I mean, can we see what the digital idle speed is? Log header. Is it in here? Oh man, your roll rate is super high. Where's the idle? Filters, current scale. Where's the dang offset percent? No, it's at 4.5. That's normal. I wouldn't expect that's really odd. We could try changing the ESC timing. I stand by my conclusion though. Something is making the motors not spin back up after you do the flips and rolls. Yeah. He tells me that it's random motors, so it's not just one motor, so it's not a bad motor or ESC. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's check the Discord. What do we got here? Terminal LCPL wants to know if you can assign a startup tone or startup music to the Mobula 7 HD. Yes, you can, because the Mobula 7 HD has BLH. Does it have BLH32 ESCs? Ooh, that's a good question. The bottom line is if it has BLH32 ESCs, then you can. If it has BLH ESCs, then you can't. A lot of times these ready-to-fly quads will use BLH so they don't have to license BLH32. Let's see. That guy wants to know if the Marmot is having the same frame resonance issues as the Chameleon. That is a reference to the mid-throttle oscillation problem I was troubleshooting with my Chameleon. And I'm working on the sequel to that video with the Marmot right now. Here's my Marmot. The short version, that guy is, the Marmot also has a resonance spike, the same as the Chameleon. But here's what's interesting. The resonance spike is up closer to 300 hertz than 200 hertz, which means that it is even more effectively filtered, but the Marmot has the same mid-throttle oscillations as the Chameleon did. So pardon me, I just breathed a heron. I don't know where that came from. I think my cat. So I'm tending to think that the mid-throttle oscillations are not actually related to the resonance spike, but something else. I'm working on a sequel to that video. So, Redek wants to know why on earth you would buy an Armatan frame. Most of their frames have issues. Great warranty or not, they're top dollar. You know, I think the Armatan, they're my favorite freestyle frame. The durability is unparalleled. And for people who have to buy the frame, you pay $80 for a premium frame from somebody else, and then when you break it, you have to buy another one. But with Armatan, you have the lifetime warranty. I mean, the lifetime warranty sort of is the trump card against any criticism. If you don't like the frames, that's fine. But, I mean, a lot of people fly the Armatan frames and get great results. I have never had mid-throttle oscillations before. Even on these exact Chameleons, when I first got them, they were clean, so something has changed. And the bottom line is, if I were an Armatan customer instead of a YouTuber, I would just be sending them these videos, and they'd send me a new frame, and I'd probably be fine. So, Brett wants to know, oh, sorry, no, hang on. Leandriel, can throttle limiting be done by a slider on my Tyrannus, but also via Betaflight? Which one's better than the other? Leandriel, it's really up to you. The throttle limit in Betaflight you can do as a rate profile. On this, I prefer to do it on the Tyrannus because then every quad I bind, I can just do it easily. I don't have to set the quads up specially. There's no benefit to one or the other. Let's see here. Back to the chat. Back to the chat. Hi, chat. Discord, I'll get back to you. No worries. No worries. What's my opinion of FreeSky Access? Asks Fasty FPV. Let's just get on the same page here. Make sure. FreeSky Access, has been a little while since I've talked about this on the live stream. So FreeSky Access is a new air protocol. Going to be supported first in the new FreeSky X Lite Pro, which, in case you're wondering, I do have one of those on the way for review. It'll be here soon, and I'll review it eventually. The main thing that Access does, well, I can't even dial it down to one like main thing. Let's zoom in here so you guys can see. 24 channels. That's not really going to be an issue for mini quads. We're hardly using all the channels that we have, but especially for some people using very large models, 24 channels. Faster baud rate and lower latency. As far as I know, they haven't announced what the latency will be, but presumably they are targeting Crossfire-like latency. So that would be an obvious thing for them to do, and I'm assuming that's what they're doing. Wireless binding, wireless firmware updates, and wireless configuration. Wireless firmware updates. Finally, I will no longer have to make videos about how to use serial pass-through to update the firmware on your FreeSky receivers. Wireless firmware updates is like, I know it's great to go 5 kilometers, 20 kilometers with Crossfire, but I got to tell you, I almost like wireless firmware updates better than I like everything else about Crossfire. It's so nice to be able to update the firmware on your module, and then as soon as you power on the quads, the receiver goes, oh, well, we got a firmware update. Cool. And it just updates. You don't have to plug it into your computer, just all your, especially if you have a lot of models. So now FreeSky is bringing that to their 2.4 gigahertz receivers. Excellent. Very exciting. Very excited about that. And some more things. Manageable telemetry. You can configure telemetry for up to 3 receivers simultaneously through the radio. The Radio Connect is a spectrum analyzer. The Radio Connect is a power meter. I'm so skeptical of that, but okay. Advanced encryption. You can bind multiple transmitters to a receiver. So right now, you can bind multiple receivers to a transmitter, but not the other way around. So what that would let you do is it would let you bring your quad to me and you say, hey Joshua, can you fix my quad? Something's wrong with the tune. And instead of you handing me your transmitter, I could just bind it to my transmitter. This is great for people who like fly mode 3 or mode 1 because you can just easily bind and you don't lose your bind. You don't have to rebind it afterwards. So this is very exciting also because this is going to be supported not just on new FreeSky receivers, but you'll be able to flash new firmware to existing receivers. RxSR is the first one they've announced that will support this. You'll be able to update the firmware, and be careful though, because as I understand it, the receivers running the new FreeSky Access firmware will not be able to bind in D16 mode anymore. And I got to tell you guys, now we're going to put our tinfoil hats on. That I think is FreeSky's real game here. I mean, yes, it's cool that they're releasing this software with new features, but FreeSky's real game is that they want to lock out third parties like Jumper. Yeah, they want to lock out third parties like Jumper from using their air protocol. I think that their big motivation here is to go to an encrypted protocol that other people cannot emulate, which is kind of funny because if I remember my history right, FreeSky started by sort of developing their own version of Futaba's air protocol. I'm not 100% sure about that, but some people have told me that I wasn't around back then. So it's kind of funny now that FreeSky is going, no, get out of our ecosystem. There you go. Okay, let's see here. I will be reviewing the X9 Lite. I'm looking forward to that. This person, whose name I can't pronounce because it's in Cyrillic letters, says, why, after the redesign of Rotor Riot, do you no longer send things to Russia? It's so sad. I think what you mean is that the new store doesn't ship to Russia. The Rotor Riot store used to ship to Russia. Now it doesn't because it's run by Race Day Quads. I get this question every so often. Like, I don't, by the way, for the record, I don't work for Race Day Quads. I don't work for Rotor Riot, but I work with them. And so people tend to ask me questions about that. I'm like, I don't know, ask them. But somebody emailed me recently and said, hey, I live in India and I want to buy something from Race Day Quads, but they don't ship to India. And I asked Tyler, I was like, Tyler, what's the deal? And the bottom line is that if they're when they send out a package, if then it doesn't get there, or there's a lost package claim or a fraud claim, if that happens enough, they just say, fine, we're not shipping to that country anymore. So that it's a purely economic analysis. Eventually, the money lost from packages that didn't arrive or people who file a fraud claim because they say they didn't get their package gets to the point where Race Day Quads goes, sorry, we can't ship to your country anymore. And I don't know any specifics, but if you're telling me that they don't ship to Russia, then presumably I do know a couple guys who live in Russia, and they tell me that the post is a real pain in the ass to deal with to get packages. Anytime I need to send a package to someone in Russia, they're like, don't send it USPS, because when Russia Post gets it, it's just a complete lost cause nightmare. So that's the answer, I'm guessing. Zero FPV asks, did you read Oscar Leong's latency comparison? R9 and Crossfire are like 1 millisecond different. Yeah, Zero FPV, a couple catches on that. R9 and Crossfire are like 1 millisecond different if you're using an X-Lite, but if you are using a QX7, I'm not sure that that's true. And we're not just talking about R9, but with the new FreeSky Access protocol, we're talking about all the 2.4 gig receivers as well. Alep FPV wants to know, if I break a space grade Marmot, can I get a normal carbon replacement? Yes, Alep FPV. If you break your space grade carbon fiber Marmot and you decide you want to go back to the regular carbon fiber, you can swap. The warranty still applies either way. Okay. Let's see here. Getting down to the super chat, Riz1117, thank you for $2. Can I use Lua with Fport? If so, how? Riz, there's no difference using Lua scripts with Fport. All you have to do is, the setup is exactly the same, but you need telemetry running. When you set up Fport, getting telemetry running is just a little different than if you're using SmartPort, but as long as telemetry is running, Riz, Lua scripts will work. Billy Presley says, Marmot or Chameleon? Billy, I got to tell you, the Marmot is better than the Chameleon. The front end is what I really like about the Marmot. The ability to have your up tilt angle for your GoPro and your camera move at the same time and easily have them at the same up tilt. I also just think the smaller front end, it's a little bit lighter and a little bit nicer. The longer deck makes it easier to adjust the CG if you care about that, or to use a bigger, longer battery. I like everything about the Marmot better than the Chameleon, except the fact that I believe that the space grade carbon is weaker. I had a big conversation about this with Armatan. Armatan really objects to that and says that their warranty claims, you could believe that, but at the end of the day, they know how many warranty claims they've gotten. And he says that the warranty claims they're getting for the Marmot are lower than they got for the Chameleon when it first came out, which he says is evidence that the Marmot is not weaker. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, but it doesn't matter. I would take the Marmot, and if you want to try the space grade carbon, get it. And if you don't trust the space grade carbon, get the regular carbon. But the Marmot is pretty awesome. I would take the Marmot over the Chameleon TI. Benjamin Weber, thank you for DKK, best kroner, Danish kroner. Where to get ESC FETs spares, preferably in Europe? Wow, I so appreciate your 20 DKK, Benjamin, but I have no freaking idea where you can order. Like if you're in the US, I would say DigiKey. The two sites I go to for electronic components are digikey.com and Mouser.com, M-O-U-S-E-R, M-O-U-S-E-R. I'm going to assume they ship to Europe, but I think they're US based, and I think you'll pay a little bit for shipping. But that's where I would order FETs from. If anybody in chat knows a good place to order like FETs or other electronic components in Europe, paste it up in the chat and ping Benjamin Weber. Okay. How are we doing over in the Discord? Junte wants to know what could be causing my ESCs to go bad after I fix another one. Junte is having a strange issue where one motor would twitch and not spin reliably, so he replaced the ESC, and then the next motor did. I don't know, man. This is a freaking odd one. because nothing about swapping one ESC should cause the other ESC to go bad. So you've got ESCs or motors that are failing, but I don't buy the conclusion that swapping the one ESC caused the other one to fail. I think we have a case here where one ESC failed after the other, and it's just, we got to figure out why the ESCs are failing. But I don't think you should operate on the assumption that it was swapping the one ESC that caused it to fail. I feel for you here, man. Junte, I'm not going to try and reveal too much personal information about you, but he posted in my Discord, and he was like, this is driving me crazy. You know, I'm on a fixed income. I want to enjoy the hobby, but I can't afford to just keep buying new ESCs a zillion times. And I feel your pain there, dude. The hardware that we use in this hobby is very widely variable in quality. And sometimes you buy something and it just dies, and then the next one dies, and the next one dies, and you go, okay, I guess I'm not buying that anymore. We had a bad run of my flight controller, and I lost some people's trust over that, even though every single one that we heard about, we sent them a brand new one. I mean, if you bought 3 flight controllers and all 3 of them died within a week of you getting them in the air, and then we offered you a replacement, you would be like, no, thank you. And some people were. I mean, so, you know, it sucks to have hardware that's dying out from under you, and you want to know why. Is it something I'm doing? Sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes you just got some crap hardware, and you have to count on the manufacturer, or more likely the vendor. If you buy this, you're not in the U.S., but if you buy from a trusted vendor like Race Day Quads, like Rotor Riot Store, like Get FPV, all these reputable vendors will take care of you. If you buy something, if you send back a picture and it's got really perfectly clean solder joints, you know, you didn't just like, and they go, okay, I guess you just got unlucky, and they'll send you another one, but it sucks. Okay. Don P says he's getting the paralyze arming warning, and it is not correcting the issue. Don P, paralyze usually means you have the paralyze mode active in the modes tab. That's what I would look at, Don. Simon Saucy wants to know what the best X-frame is. Like, I want a standard X-frame, not stretched for 5-inch. Simon Saucy, if you want my absolute answer, first of all, let me just acknowledge there are a ton of really, really amazing, excellent frames out. Get it? Excellent. Excellent frames out there. The one that comes to my mind is the Catalyst Machine Works America. That is such a good, it's so smooth and amazing and wonderful. It's a pain in the ass to build and a pain in the ass to maintain. I wouldn't want one as my daily driver, but if you truly want to know what I think one of the best X-frames out there is the Catalyst Machine Works America. Simon Saucy, don't feel neglected, dude. I make the rounds. I make them rounds, man. Yes, Robin, do you really think that FreeSky is going to give the old radios an access update? Yes, I do, in as much as they can. Like, they've announced that the RxSR will be getting the access firmware. FreeSky wants you to use this access firmware because I think that FreeSky wants D16 and D8 to die. Because if D16 Air Protocol dies and everyone is using access protocol, then companies like Jumper are screwed. Because then they will no longer be FreeSky compatible with their modules. They will have to basically crack the encryption on the access protocol, which opens up a whole nother can of worms. So I think FreeSky's big play here is to get everybody, even people with, the thing is, there's millions and millions probably of old FreeSky receivers out there that people are still using. So if FreeSky can get all of those people to update their firmware and be using access, they will deal a severe blow to people using, to third parties releasing FreeSky receivers and bind and flies. We'll see. I don't know. Let's see. What's a good FreeSky controller, asks Simon Saucy. I want one with a color screen and model pics. Has to be touchscreen. A FreeSky controller with touchscreen? I don't know the answer to that, my friend. Like, the Horus X10 or the Jumper T16 both have the same big color screen, but as far as touchscreen goes, the only one I know of is the Nirvana. So, Simon, if you want touchscreen, Under 60. Oh, no, that's the frame. Yeah, Simon Saucy, if you want a touchscreen FreeSky controller, Nirvana is the one. Let's see here. Oh, I'm getting away from me here. I'm going to answer a couple more in the Discord, and then we'll get back to the public chat. I don't want to spend too much time on my patrons. Sorry, patrons. Patrons can ask me questions anytime, so don't let them dominate the live stream. Jeff Hopkins asks, do you think community-based open source frames with free CAD files are more beneficial for users over store-based frames that are always running out of parts? Yeah, Jeff, so open source frames like the TBS Source 1 and Source 2 are the first two that come to my mind. They're wonderful because, I mean, I love open source. Open source is good for the community, but it is bad for business. I say that, and some people are going to object, and they're going to say, what do you mean? Look at Red Hat. Red Hat is this giant company that makes a lot of money providing services for open source Linux distributions. Service-based industries can, this is my personal opinion, service-based industries can survive around an open source ecosystem. WordPress is another great example of that. WordPress is completely open source, and yet it's a giant company that makes a lot of money for a lot of people. And not just WordPress, but third-party people who develop WordPress themes, WordPress consulting. It's all services, though. By the time you get to products, there inevitably seems to be a conflict between the open source mindset and the need to make money off a product. Because if you've got an open source frame, then all of your intellectual property, such as it is, that goes into the frame's design is now free for anyone to use. The only place where you can make money is on manufacturing, and China will beat you at manufacturing unless you're Chinese, and after-sales support. So it's very, very hard to win when you have in business when you have an open source product. That being said, I'm a big fan of them because from a customer's perspective, open source is amazing. You look at guys like Ryan Harrell of MiniQuadTestbench.com, most famously. He has a CNC machine. He cuts carbon in his house, in his garage. And he takes something like the Source 1 and he goes, I like this, but what if it had, and he changes it and he prints it and he sells it to you. That's amazing. So I think open source is fantastic. Open source frames are fantastic for customers, but I do think that as soon as one gets popular enough, eventually there's going to be a challenge with somebody who wants to make money off of it. Okay. Gente, I'm using the Holy Bro Teco 32 ESC. However, if you're looking for an absolutely bulletproof ESC, I'm sorry to say I can't recommend it. I mean, I do recommend the Teco 32 ESC. I've had good results with it and good performance. However, I also have had at least one of them just die and it was one of the new Metal FET ones, just die for no reason. Like one of the channels just died for no reason. Literally, my third pack hadn't crashed it in the grass or the wet or anything, and it just fell out of the air, and I went, damn it. And then I just put another one on because as a YouTuber, I get a lot of parts for free. Thank God. But I did make a mental note to say, if somebody asks me, is the Teco 32 bulletproof? The answer is no. We used the Teco 32 on my budget build as well, and there was at least one run where motor channel number 2 was dying randomly. And we replaced them all. But right now, chime in the chat if you like, but right now the ESC that seems like the most bulletproof I can think of is the T-Motor F55. Now, if you bought a T-Motor F55 and it died for no freaking reason, tell us in the chat. But so far, I haven't heard very many or any bad reports about the F55. Giunte, I would strongly recommend staying away from 4-in-1 ESCs if you are concerned about durability, because when it dies, if it dies, you're going to be out $60, whereas with individual ESCs, if and when they die, you're only out 10 or $15. Okay. Okay. Von Zek, I'm skipping ahead a little bit in the Discord chat, guys. Von Zek, the FCC and EU firmware has to do with the output power and the frequency, the way the frequencies are modulated. There is no difference in the frequency band between FCC and EU. Defini, I threw that motor bell in for you as a souvenir. That the Copus 2, Defini won the Holybro Copus 2 in one of my patron giveaways, and I threw him in a broken JB bell just as a little souvenir. You do whatever you like with that. Terminal LCPL Nirvana is FlySky, but you can put a module in it to make it work with FreeSky. Okay, back to the standard, the YouTube chat. Hello, plebs. No, I'm teasing. Esley Watson says he never heard a bad word about Acon ESCs. Fair enough. Mamba 40 amp power tower for $40, runs 60 amp, runs 6S and can't kill him. Yeah, the diatone Mamba. Oh my God, stop! Sorry, I didn't mute my phone before I went on live stream. What an Alex. Check your list. Check your procedure list, Alex. You're supposed to mute my phone before we go on live stream. What are we doing here? Mute my phone. There we go. Yeah. Mamba 40 amp power tower. Diatone Mamba 40 amp power tower. Let's look at that. 40 amp 6S. Yeah. Oh, $45. Wow. I mean, for that price, I'd give it a punt. I mean, if it's not great, you're basically out the price. That's a flight controller and ESC basically for the price of a flight controller. I mean, Diatone usually has pretty decent hardware. I'm really impressed, honestly. That's a hell of a bargain. Honestly. Okay. Let's see. All right, getting back here. What kind of help? I have no Sextable 14U. I feel bad for reading your username. I don't know why, but I just don't feel right about your username. Please help. I have no aux channels on the new Nirvana. I think I have it mapped and mixed correctly. Everything worked on my Evolution, etc. The first thing to do is whenever you're having issues with like channels not working, the very first thing to do is to go to the channel monitor screen on your radio. Somewhere on your radio, like on the X9D, you just press the page key a couple times and you get to the channel monitor. And then as you move the sticks or flip the switches, you can see that the channel is moving. That tells you that the radio thinks the channel is moving. And of course, if the radio doesn't think the channel is moving, then the flight controller isn't and the receiver aren't going to see anything. So the very first thing to do is to confirm that the channel monitor shows the channel moving. Then look in the Betaflight receiver tab and see if it sees the channel moving, and then work from there. That's where I would start, Sextable 14U. Happy Mother's Day, by the way, to all the mothers who are out there watching my stream, of which there are probably none. I don't mean to be sexist about that. I just mean I know my analytics, and like 0.2% of my viewers are male, are female, according to YouTube. So, you know, the chances, just statistically, of a mother watching the stream right now are, hey, all the mothers in the background, while your husband is watching the stream. Happy Mother's Day, you guys. Happy Mother's Day. Fear and Loathing in FPV wants to know, why is everyone so stuck on micro mini cams over full-size cams? Here's the bottom line, Fear and Loathing. Micro cams have the same size sensor, and if you get one with an M12 lens, the same size lens as the bigger cams. They're just smaller and lighter and easier to put into a frame. It used to be that frames were all designed for full-size cams, and then you had to use a bracket to put them in, to put the micro cam in, at which point I was like, what's the point? But now that frames are specifically designed for micro cams, you get a smaller frame, you get more compact, and, you know, the same image quality, so why not? Yeah. Hello, mothers. If you want to, you know, as a special, you get some ideas for what kind of things to do for Mother's Day, I want you to go to YouTube and I want you to look up the song Mother Lover by Lonely Island. The band is Lonely Island, and the song is called Mother Lover. For everyone who loves their mothers, this is a song for you. Don't listen to it with your kids in the room, though. Okay. No more super chats have come in. No questions on the super chat. Let's go back over to the Discord then. Oh, here's one. Stepan G. Hi, Joshua. 2 questions about my Mobula 7. 1, video range is very poor, like 50 to 60 meters without obstacles. So, Stepan, definitely check. The first thing is that you're on the same channel. Check that you're on the same channel. Don't use autoscan. Autoscan will steer you wrong. Look in the smart audio menu and see what channel the Mobula thinks it's on. Make sure your goggles are set to the exact same channel. And use the megahertz. Don't use, because on some goggles like the Omoy Commander, the band and channel designators are actually wrong. Like Fat Shark is D band or whatever. So check the megahertz, 5940 megahertz or whatever it is, and make sure you're on the right channel. You could, then the next thing to do, Stepan G, is just use process of elimination. Okay, you can use somebody else's goggles and see if they also have short range. If they can see the signal clearly, but you have breakup, then your goggles are the issue. But if you both have breakup, then the VTX or the antenna is the issue. You look at their quad in your goggles. Just use a basic process of elimination. That's what I would do. Riz1117 says, telemetry's working with Fport. Okay, so Riz, you want to make 100% sure telemetry's working, okay? What you need to do is go into the telemetry screen on your Horus X10S and do discover new sensors. Or you need to see that all the sensors are there and the little star next to them is flashing, which indicates that they're updating. Just because you need telemetry like 100% working. And you may do discover sensors and you get RSSI. That's coming from the receiver, not the flight controller. There are some sensors that come from the receiver and some sensors that come from the flight controller. And if you only see the receiver sensors like RSSI, your Lua scripts aren't going to work. So no, you don't need to change anything in ports for Lua to work. You just need telemetry working. You may need to go to the CLI and type set TLM_half duplex equals on or maybe off, depending on your setup. Alex Goresh wants to know, I'm getting some prop wash vibrations coming out of power loops. I can cancel it out by rolling on the throttle. Can I increase D or something? Yeah, Alex, you can try and fix that prop wash with tuning, increasing D gain and decreasing the filtering. Raise the filter cutoffs or disable some of the filters. The risk of that is that you risk smoking a motor if things get too far. But the thing is, Alex, when you see pros like Stinger Swarm or Johnny FPV or any of those guys, Mr. Steele, when you see them fly and they have no prop wash, that's like 40 or 50% their tune and like 90% their skill with the sticks. I know that doesn't add up to 100%. You get my point. A good pilot will fly around the prop wash and avoid making it. And a novice pilot will try and tune it out. And the tune makes it easier, but the flying makes it actually the best. Ken Simmons wants to know, $5 in the super chat, thank you, Ken, wants to know my thoughts on the King Kong ET12V2. Well, King Kong traditionally are budget, let's see, where is it? Here it is. Is it? Oh, it's a frame. That's just the frame. Are you asking me about the frame, Ken? I don't know, man. I don't know. It's impossible to really judge a frame like this without knowing about the durability. I mean, the fundamental design of the frame doesn't look bad, but like if the first time you crash it, it falls apart, I couldn't recommend it. I don't think I would recommend it just because there's no way to know about the durability or if it's got any flaws. I would be looking at a proven performer, something like the Beta FPV or, the Mobula or something like that. Gabriel Ventura gives $5 and says, I'm using F-port. The receiver works, but not telemetry. I can see RSSI, but no battery voltage. I tried Discover sensors and nothing. Gabriel Ventura, if F-port, first of all, make sure that you have connected to a pad on the flight controller with bidirectional inverter. If you're using an F4, then that would be the smart port pad. If you're using an F7, then it's any pad. Make sure you've connected to the TX pad, not the RX pad. I believe that if you connect F-port to an RX pad, the receiver will work, but telemetry won't. I'm not 100% on that. And then you may need, Gabriel, to go into the CLI and type set TLM_half duplex equals on or maybe off, depending on the flight controller, but try flipping that one. Let's see here. How about the Discord? What do we got going on? What do you think about the new Runcam Racer Nano? Runcam Racer Nano, huh? I don't know. What do I think about that? Oh, you guys are still looking at my screen. Sorry about that, guys. Runcam Racer Nano. Oh, I see. It's a Runcam Racer, but sized for like micro quads. Well, that's exciting. There have traditionally not been a lot of options for these little micro quads. So if Runcam is going to make a camera for micros, I'm all for it. 3.5 grams. Yeah, I'm all for it. I haven't tested this camera yet, but the stock camera that comes on some of these quads, like the Mobula 7, is garbage. So the ability to kind of drop in a quality Runcam camera, yeah, I like it. How much was it? Hang on. It's $35. How much is the Cadex EOS? Oh, see, here's the thing. The Cadex EOS is, no, what is that? No. Here we go. The Cadex EOS is a decent camera, really quite good. It comes on the ESC trash can. It's $16. So I think Runcam has their work cut out for them with the Nano at $35. But I think before I bought the Runcam Racer Nano, I would definitely look at the Cadex EOS at like less than half the price and see if it looked like a good option for me. Alrighty. Okay. I'm still running, Alex Goresh wants to know, I'm still running a LaForge V3. Is there any reason why I should move to Rapid Fire or something else? Well, Alex, if you're happy with the performance of your LaForge V3, then you don't need to change to anything else. The performance of the LaForge is decent. The Rapid Fire is, the thing is, you quickly learn to fly around the limitations of your goggles. So you're not going to notice that you have less range. You're just going to be like, yeah, I'm just flying. When you go to something like the Rapid Fire and you get the improved, you don't just get improved range, but one of the things you do get is improved range. Suddenly you're like, oh, I can fly behind that building, but it takes you a while to adjust. And it's only when you get used to the Rapid Fire and then go back to something else that you're like, why did I lose signal there? That's so annoying. But if you're used to something like the LaForge, you may not actually know what you're missing. The other thing is that the improvement in range and penetration is not like 3 times as much, right? There's only so much we can do here. You do get a more stable image with the Rapid Fire. When I go back to a traditional diversity module like a LaForge, the flickering of the diversity switching, even in the best goggles like Owl RC, is a great diversity module. It does diversity switching about as well as anybody, and yet when I go back to it, the flickering is still there, and when you use something like Rapid Fire, it's just not there. And it's like this subconscious buzzing in your brain, right? So the thing though is Rapid Fire is way more expensive than LaForge. It's like twice as expensive, 140-ish bucks versus like 70 or 80-ish bucks. And you already have a LaForge that you're happy with. So to go to Rapid Fire is going to cost you a lot of money. So if you're happy with it, stick with it. If you're like, oh, I'd like something a little better, go for it. It is better, in my personal opinion. But it's not $140 better for many people. What would be my go-to 2 or 3 inch drone? Any price, any type. Scott Granger. I got to tell you, so many people are telling me that Kebab's toothpick is amazing. I still haven't gotten a chance to fly it. The Kebab's toothpick is amazing. Let's have a look. That is, I think it's 2 inch. This is the toothpick frame, and basically you take like a Mobula, and you put here. Here we go. Let's see if we can find. Now, I don't want to see it flying. I just want to see. There we go. I just want to see a picture of it. You basically take the hardware from like a Mobula and you put it on this open frame and you run like 2 inch props on it. So many people are. There we go. There's a great image of it. So many people are so excited about this. I'd love to give that a try. For 3 inch, that's interesting. I am very interested. Is that what you call it? The driblet? Drew just released a 3 inch quad. The driblet. Oh, no, this is 2 inch. My bad. This is 2 inch. What's a 3 inch? Baby Hawk R is a 3 inch. What's a good 3 inch? That's personally worth a look. What's a good 3 inch? I'm not sure about that. I thought the driblet was a 3 inch. I guess I'm wrong about that. Diatone R349. Oh, yeah. Thank you for suggesting that. Let's look at the Diatone R349. Definitely worth a mention. This is, yeah, 140 bucks. Yeah, okay, good suggestion. Diatone, I'm such a big fan of Diatone. They're hard. Why can't I zoom in on this picture? Okay. There we go. Their hardware, their electronics are really, really good. Well designed, well thought out, and decent execution in terms of quality control. And I've heard so many good things about this frame. This exact same or nearly the same electronics on the GT3 239, the GT239, the soft plastic frame, I was not a big fan of, but so many people have told me that the 349 on 3 inch props with a rigid frame is amazing. Definitely worth a look. Yeah, I think I would have to go with that. Tooth Fairy 3 inch from Pyro. Good suggestion. Matthew Smiley wants me to do a giveaway. What could I give away? I don't know. Oh, Armatan Gecko 3 inch. Let's see here. Simon Saucy. What's the song? What song, Simon? Is there a song playing? Oh, I had a song playing in the background this whole time. No. Propsoft says the R349 is insanely quick, but flight time's a little low. Best thing you can do, Propsoft, to improve your flight time is make sure you have a good quality battery. A poor quality battery will sag and shorten your flight time. And if you go to a slightly larger battery, you can get longer flight time with a little bit of a compromise in handling. But Shendrone Squirt on 3 inch props. Interesting. What do you think of the Tiny Whoop Nano with turtle mode? Is that the, no, that's the TBS. Is that the TBS, the Tiny Whoop Nano? Or is that from Tiny Whoop? No, that's from Tiny Whoop. Well, good. That's the second one I've seen. So this is the Tiny Whoop Nano from Tiny Whoop, and it has turtle mode. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, no, see, I knew it was partnered with Team Black Sheep. I don't know a thing about this, but if Jesse Perkins is putting his name on it, it's probably worth a try. He has always put out really good quality stuff before. When I heard about Team Black Sheep putting out a micro, I thought back to that $50, special they put out. They had some micro quads they sold for like $50, sight unseen. Kind of like, was it with Drone Drop or something? I don't know. And every single person I know who bought one of those said it was not worth the $50. I'm like, well, you bought a micro quad for $50. What were you expecting? They said it was kind of garbage. I shouldn't. Now all the TBS fanboys are going to come jump down my throat. I'm sorry, it's true. Everybody I know who paid $50 for one of those was not happy with it. It's just a fact. But this one comes from Jesse Perkins and a TBS, and I Jesse's putting his name on it. I think it's probably worth a look. I'm happy that it has turtle mode. That's one of the biggest things that I have disliked about brushed whoops is the lack of turtle mode. And the thing is, there's no reason with a brushless motor, there's no reason you can't reverse the motor. Just flip the wires and the motor reverses. But nobody has built their flight controllers to be able to do that. So finally someone did. Yay. Congratulations. Stefan Golian says, I have a weird problem with my Turtle V2. When I set PAL mode, I get black and white FPV feed. On NTSC, I have full colors. When I try my old quad, everything's normal. I'm out of ideas. Stefan, it sounds like your goggles are not liking PAL mode. Are you sure that your goggles or screen are able to handle both NTSC and PAL? That's the question. If your goggles are not liking PAL, then maybe that's the problem. The bottom line, Stefan, can you just run NTSC and then, get on with your day? Terminal LCPL suggests as a 3-inch. He suggests the real ACC frame, and that's fine, but I have to give credit where credit is due to the Carrera TT. The Carrera TT, which is the original frame. And, I am not going to preach to you about whether you should or shouldn't buy clones. It's your money. It's your time. You do what you want with it. But no. No, thank you. I don't want to. No. Go away. I don't need that. But I will say that Carrera absolutely deserves a ton of credit for coming up with these original designs. They have to be given credit for it. No one ever made a quadcopter anything like this before Carrera did. And then Real ACC they didn't, if anything, they made it worse. Because, if you look at, let me pull this up bigger. If you look at, Real ACC's version of this design, look at these little thin things. You don't think that's going to break? Give me a break. So they stole all the good stuff, and then they didn't really add anything to it. So you make your own decision. I have flown this frame. It flies okay. I'm not sure I loved the electronics that were on it, but the frame seemed okay. It's a little heavy. I got to say, at the 3-inch size, every little bit of weight counts, and it's a little heavy compared to other 3-inch frames out there because they have the metal hardware. If I was going to buy this, I would consider the Carrera version over the Real ACC, but I understand if you get the Real ACC version. It's way more expensive for the Carrera. Let's see. 1 second, guys. Sorry, guys, 1 second. Got $10 in the super chat from Shane Beast, who says, I want to get a new set of goggles. Is the HDO worth that much more than the HD3 Core? Should I even be looking for Fat Sharks? Shane Beast, I'll take my 30 seconds here to give my Fat Shark spiel. Fat Shark is the only manufacturer of FPV goggles today that provides any meaningful warranty or after-sales support. Fat Shark has service centers on 3 continents, one in US, one in Asia, and one in Europe. If you buy a 4-year-old set of Fat Shark HD2s and the optics module goes out, you can send them in and they will find a way to get them working again for you. Nobody else can say that. If you buy a Fat Shark goggle and a month after you buy it, it dies somehow, they will take care of you with a warranty. Nobody else can say that. Every time you spend your money on a goggle other than a Fat Shark goggle, you are gambling with your money. Many people win that gamble. They spend $300 on a set of Eachine EV200Ds, which are a great set of goggles when they are 100% working. Amway Commander, great set of goggles. Many people buy them, have them for years, and are happy with them, and that could be you. But personally, if I'm going to spend $300 on a set of goggles, I would rather spend $400 on a set of goggles like the HD3 Core and know that somebody has my back 2 years down the line if anything happens to them. That's me. If that's you, then there you go. I always harp on that because whether Fat Sharks are a better goggle, that's subjective. I think they're very good goggles, but some people look at the EV200D and they go, wow, these screens, I like them better than the HD3 or even the HDO, which kind of surprises me. But hey, you know, that's your subjective opinion. But there's no debate that nobody provides after-sale support like Fatshark does. So is the HDO worth more than the HD3 core? That's a tougher one. I use HD3s right now as my daily driver. I'm not sure if I would spend $100 more for HDOs, but there are many people out there who feel like that's a no-brainer and they would do it. Your best bet is to find a way to be able to look at those goggles yourself and see for yourself. There you go. The HD3 is actually end of life. So we got that from Grayson Hobby in one of their news videos. So if you want an HD3, you better buy it soon, because they are not going to be available anymore. All right. Back to Discord. How's it going, Discord? What's the question? I noticed in the last video you were using 2 Strix hoots with the 90-degree mounts. Have you found this for reception? Tumbleweed 30 on the rapid fire module, 2 Omni antennas works amazing for me. I just don't even have to think about which way my head is pointing. There are some cases where I might choose to put a patch antenna on. For example, if I was flying at a bando and we were standing at the edge of the bando and the bando was over there, I might think about putting a patch antenna on. But for the most part, you put 2 Omnis, like Strix Hoots or Luminaire Axie or Foxeer Lollipops. You put 2 Omnis on your rapid fire, and you just don't even think about it. If you have any other module other than a rapid fire, including TrueDX, in my opinion, you're going to get better reception with a patch and an Omni, not with 2 Omnis. Maybe TrueDX is the exception, but all the traditional diversity modules, you want a patch and an Omni in almost every case. That's my opinion. Well, Terminal LCPL, thank you, sir, for pointing that out. How could I have overlooked the good old Acrobrat? No, not Acrobat. Oh, my God. The Acrobrat. That's Tommy's frame. You know, the reason I didn't think of that is because I was thinking of bind and fly and ready to flies. I guess Drew's frame is not really a ready to fly either. If you're looking for a freestyle focused 3-inch frame, then the Acrobrat it's a little heavier also, but it's designed to run with a little bit bigger motors and handle a little bit more like a 5-inch. So certainly worth looking at in the 3-inch domain. Can't leave out Mr. Oh my God there. Let's see here. Back to the chat. Hi, Matthew Smiley. I see you there, buddy. Any opinions on the Emacs Formula 32 45 amp ESCs? No, John Doe. Everybody's got their own ESC out there. There's no way to know which ones are great and which ones are crap. They all perform about the same. Have you noticed that Mini Quad Test Bench, Ryan Harrell's site, used to test ESCs, and he doesn't anymore. He hasn't for years. And the reason is that ESCs with BLA 32, all the ESCs basically perform the same. It's just a question of which ones blow up faster. So those ESCs, I don't know anything about them. Maybe they're good. Maybe they're not. Let's see. I have a new flight controller that shows in Betaflight less cells that are plugged in. I plug in a 4S, it shows 3S. Plug in a 5S, it shows 4S. Is there a setting I'm missing? DTFPV, that's the second question we've had about this today. How odd. Betaflight guesses the number of cells you have by taking your battery voltage, and then it knows that the battery has to be between like 3.3 and 4.3 volts, right? The cells. So it just divides the pack voltage by 1, 2, 3, 4 until it figures out how many cells it thinks you have. The place it gets those thresholds is here, the minimum and maximum cell voltage. So you can tweak the min and max cell voltage values. I think it's actually just the max cell voltage that it uses. You can tweak that up or down. If you raise the max cell voltage too much, it will cause it to underestimate the number of cells. If you lower the max cell voltage too much, it will cause it to overestimate the number of cells. That's what you need to change, though, in order to tweak that. Also, Just make sure that your voltage is correct. You may need to change your voltage scale to make sure that the measured voltage is correct. If your voltage scale is slightly off and you're reading the voltage like a half a volt high, that'll cause it to miscalculate the number of cells. Okay. What about the difference in noise, Majesty NL? What about the difference in noise between the ESCs? Yeah, that does make a difference, Majesty. Some ESCs are noisier than others, and you can look at Drone Mesh's website. He does a thing where he measures with an oscilloscope the amount of noise the ESCs are making. I have to say I've heard from other people who say that that's not really a meaningful measurement, at least the way he's doing it. I don't know enough to say whether that's true or not, but I feel compelled to point that out. In general, the more capacitors an ESC has, the cleaner it's going to be. So bigger, heavier ESCs with more capacitors. That's one of the reasons to upsize your ESC. If you only need a 25 amp ESC, but you buy a 45 amp ESC, it's going to have larger FETs and it's going to tend to have larger capacitors as well. The same is true if you buy a 6S capable ESC when you're only running 4S. It'll tend to perform better and maybe with less noise. It's not always a given, but... Rhinosaur says your throttle stick position shows on the OSD in the RSSI. Rhinosaur, what has happened there is that you have gone into the receiver tab and you have set your RSSI channel. You've set your RSSI channel to channel 3, which is your throttle channel. You need to set it to, I'm guessing you need to set it to aux 3, not channel 3. That's my guess. Can you use too many capacitors? Generally, no. In general, quads have less capacitance than they really need for best performance, and we kind of get away with it. Adding capacitors will almost always make things better, or at least will just not do anything, but adding capacitors will almost never make things worse. $1018 FPV says my current sensor reads 170 amps on the bench. No change when armed or motor spun up. Scale set according to manufacturer specs. Thoughts? Yeah, here's my thought. My thought is that when you go to the power and battery tab, you have the wrong current meter source. You need onboard ADC or you need ESC sensor. But however the current reading is getting into your flight controller, you have the incorrect source set up. That's what I think. So it's just reading a bogus value that doesn't mean anything. Diatone coming out with a new Cadex Tarsier 4K. What do you mean Diatone, CN Brit? It's Cadex, right? The Tarsier 4K. Check this out, guys, if you didn't know about this. The Cadex Tarsier. It's not a rumor anymore, Multi-Rotor Guide. See if I can find a good reference to it. Where's the Tarsier? There we go. Close other tabs. Cadex Tarsier, a 4K camera. Where's the actual? There we go. Cadex FPV. Wow, $89. Cadex Tarsier. Check this out. Can I not? Oh my God, you guys are killing me with your web pages. Can I just zoom in on the damn image? Okay, this is the Cadex Tarsier. It is an FPV and HD camera similar to the Runcam Split, etc. But what it's got going for it is two separate cameras in the same housing. The idea being that there's all these issues with latency and reliability when you make an HD cam also be your FPV cam. So instead, let's just have both. I mean, we'll just put them in the same housing. One camera is your FPV cam. It's a traditional analog standard definition camera. One camera is your HD cam, and therefore you get the same low latency and reliability that you want. That's at least the promise. It has 4K capability. That doesn't mean anything because the bit rate is really not the resolution. The bit rate is really what determines the quality. These filters here, these ND filters, I've tried them on the Cadex Ratel. And the problem is that they just fall right off as soon as you crash. So in theory, putting these on your HD cam is good, but we got to find a way to keep them on. I don't know what that might be. Okay. Maybe a little bit of glue or something. And the bit rates, I remember, are actually pretty decent. Let me find, here Where's the list of bit rates? 4K, 4K 30, 2.7K 60. Very exciting. This 2.7K 60 4.3 setting is going to be really exciting for like post-production super view. If you want to kind of do a super view like thing in post, very exciting. And the bit rate, 30, 50, or 70 megabits per second, that's actually really respectable. 50 megabit per second for 2.7K is completely respectable bit rate. So I'm really, the specs on this are really encouraging. But here's the thing. Here's the reason I'm not saying go plunk your money down right now. Every single manufacturer who's made one of these cameras, the first generation, has had issues. That being said, Caddx already makes the turtle, so maybe they know what they're doing. Very interesting. Steven Seidel wants to know, thank you for 549 euros in the super chat. Thank you, Steven. What battery or case to power your Fat Sharks? I use the Fat Shark 18650 case. Yep, 15 bucks. 18650. That's exactly what I use, and I just have a bunch of lithium-ion, 18650 packs. So this is oh, now it's 20 bucks. Okay. This is what I use, though. Fat Shark 18650 lithium-ion battery cell holder. That's what I use. I like it. Easy to change out when they get low. And just have some 18650s with you in the field. Let's see. Joseph Ford, thank you for $5. Joseph asks, how much does the lower frequencies generated by larger props affect flight control noise? How would you tune the notch filters? Joseph, the first thing I would do on a quad with larger props is I would not attack the notch filters, but I would try the low pass filters. You want to make sure that the low pass is getting low enough to filter out those low frequencies. So you may need to take your gyro low pass down. Like on the X-Class quads with the 13-inch props, they take the gyro low pass down to like 40 hertz, which is a shockingly low number if you're used to 5 inches. So you're going to want to lower your gyro low pass first to just kind of get the basic noise under control. And then I would not be using notch filters. The main reason to target notch filters is if there is some kind of a resonance peak that is not being well controlled by the low passes. But in general, the static notches today are not the first or second place I would go to try to solve problems. Dennis Zamatev, 200, I'm guessing rubles. Is it rubles? RUB. Yeah, 200 rubles. Okay, thank you, Dennis. 200 rubles. What do you think about open source frames? I talked earlier in the live stream about open source frames, Dennis. It was toward the beginning of the frame. Somebody asked about that. I'm a big fan of open source frames that let people, modify them and cut them themselves. But the problem is that if nobody can make money off of it, then it's potentially going to die. If an open source frame is led by just an open source collective who likes to work on it, that's fine. But when it is backed by a company that has to make money to stay alive, there's always a conflict between the desire to prevent others from profiting off of it so you can profit off it versus the desire to give to the community. And that sometimes comes to a head. Okay. Sneak says, I bought your FC with an Acon 32 30x30, but the Acon has 10 pins. My flight controller has 8. Can I solder the important cables together on an 8-pin connector from the 10-pin? Whoa, careful, Sneak. Let's take a look at the Acon pinout here, and let's just have a quick look. And we'll see if this is the right one. Does it have the 10-pin? I think what the Acon does... Oh, yeah, don't let me zoom in. No. Can't have people zooming in. So, Sneak, what the Acon does is it looks like it has 2 grounds, 2 positives, and then 4, 3, 2, 1 current and TX. You could combine those grounds and positives into a single pin, or you could just leave one out. Either way is fine. They're redundant. You would want to make sure on some ESCs, one of these on the T-motor ESCs, one of these pluses is 5 volts and one is VBAT. So make sure you get that right. The other thing is that the overall layout of this is completely different than my ESC. So you will probably just end up building a custom header. And what you're going to want to do is get this. This is the Race Day quads. Ready-Made RC also has one. Probably Get FPV has one by now. This is the SH 1.0 silicon cable set for $5. You can just, it's pre-crimped cables, and you can build your own connectors, and that's what I would suggest to do. Alternatively, you could just direct solder to the flight controller if you prefer. How are we doing? Does anybody fly? Tumbleweed 30 points out that the 18650 case is $15 from Race Day Quads and other real FPV vendors. It's only $20 from Amazon. But with my Prime free shipping, my Prime shipping isn't free. It's $100 whatever bucks a year. So your call. Andrew Mitchell says, black lines appear in my video the more throttle I use. Yeah, Andrew, that is noise, electrical noise from the ESCs getting injected back into the system. Capacitor can sometimes help, but oftentimes it will not be enough to completely solve it. You got to figure out what's causing the noise. You can do that. Look for sources of vibration, like broken standoffs and so forth. Make sure the flight controller is soft mounted. Add capacitor, can't hurt. More filtering, software filtering will help clean up that noise. Lower D-gain will help clean up that noise. These are all, there are like 27 things you can do to try and clean up the noise, and you just got to kind of start doing them and cross your fingers that you solve the problem. That's the bottom line. FPV Jitsu wants to know what my take is on the Asgard V2 flight controller. Well, I remember the Asgard. See, I reviewed the Asgard V1. The thing about the Asgard is it is an all-in-one, including ESC and flight controller in one. One of the limitations of... Oh, will not restock. Oh, well, anyway. One of the limitations of the... Is there a V2? What about the V2? What about the... Yeah, okay. So one of the limitations of something like this is that if and when your ESC finally dies, you lose your flight controller too. You're just out $80. And when you compare that... Why can't I zoom in? I hate everyone who designs web pages. Well, you guys will please let me just zoom in on a damn image. You freaking... Why would you stop? Thank you. Sorry, guys. So, like we saw earlier, the Diatone Mamba stack, which was $45 for a flight controller and ESC, that's half as much as this. And if your ESC dies, you can just replace the ESC by itself without having to desolder everything from the flight controller. So you really got to want this. You really got to need this exact situation for your setup. Like, for example... This might be a great flight controller for the Catalyst MachineWorks Smooth Operator, which is such a tight build, it's hard to fit everything in. Or for something like maybe the Catalyst MachineWorks America. But in general, this wouldn't be my first choice because it's $80 for a flight controller and ESC, which is not bad, but you can do better. And as soon as one FET pops, I'm replacing $80 worth of gear, and that's not my favorite. The other thing is that the pad layout is a little bit restricted. I recall from the review I did on the V1 of this that there are only so many UARTs available, and it does make it a little tricky if you're trying to do like S-Bus, SmartPort, and GPS. Maybe not. Anyway. Randall Badgett, the bind and fly Armatans are okay. Armatan's build services are good. They have good build quality. There have been some people who've had issues before. They're not 100% perfect, like somebody gets one and has a tuning issue. They are generally pretty good about standing behind their product, though. So if you're looking for a bind and fly, a custom build, they're a good place to go. The other place I'd suggest you look if you're in the U.S. is Catalyst MachineWorks. Catalyst MachineWorks is top-notch build quality. You pay for it, so maybe it shouldn't be your first quad. But if you're really looking for like an absolutely top-notch hand build and you don't want to do it yourself, Catalyst MachineWorks is a good place to go. Let's see here. Do I recommend... Elevated Customs asks in the Discord, do I recommend removing the gyro low pass 2 or D-term low pass 2 first? So here we are. If we go over to Betaflight, one of the things in Betaflight 402 is Betaflight 402 ships with the gyro low pass 2 and the D-term low pass 2 turned on. And the reason for this is that with these turned off, some people were getting flyaways. The gyro filter filters everything going into the PID loop. The D-term filter filters only the D-term. So you get the best effect. You get the best effect on prop wash by turning down and disabling the gyro filter because you get the most reduction in latency. That actually depends on the cutoff filter value, though. So a gyro at 100 and a D-term at 150. I wish Mark Spatz were here to make sure I was getting this right. But I believe that the gyro, disabling the gyro is going to have the biggest effect on your prop wash handling, but it's also going to be the riskiest move in terms of your the risk of smoke and motors, because it's going to remove more filtering. I usually try to adjust the gyro filter first because I like to make big moves. So I would probably disable the gyro first. But I got to tell you, I mean, on all the quads, I personally haven't had a flyaway on beta, with both of them disabled. So personally, I disable both of them. I think that I would start with the gyro and then the D-term. That's what I guess that's what I would say. Streifen Prinz wants to know if I'm going to review the Foxeer Box 2. Yes, I have one in the mail. I have one in the mail, so I'll be reviewing the Box 2. I'm very excited about the new batch of high-def cams from Foxeer, Runcam, etc., because with the GoPro Session, basically, it's discontinued and it's getting even harder to get on the aftermarket. There's a real need for something to fill that place. All the pro pilots are just going to the GoPro 7, the Hero 7. They just plunk down their $400. They get their Best Buy warranty, and when it breaks, they pay $50 for a new one. But that's just not an option for a lot of people. A lot of people can't do that. So there needs to be a decent budget option for a good high-def cam that people can use. And I'm really excited to test out the Foxeer Box 2, the Runcam 5, and anything else anybody can get out there. Is Maciej... I can't pronounce Polish names. I apologize. Maciej Sepian. Tyrone 109, good to start flying FPV. The Tyro series, the Tyro 79, Tyro 109, these are amazing price for a quad that will get in the air, and I love that they're doing it with a build your own kit where you can actually get some building experience. Let's look at the Tyro 109 here. Tyro 109 from, let's just take the first link. Eachine is really doing something incredible here. Now, I will say, here's the Tyro 99. We'll pick that one. Every single piece of electronics on here is absolutely bargain basement. There's just no way to get the price. How much is this one? $106. There's no way to get all this gear down to this price without really scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of quality. So if you buy one of these and if you build it, I do not expect that it will last you very long. You are going to blow something up fairly soon. But it is one of the Tyro 79 is freaking $79. Tyro 79 is like, really? Come on. Hey, for real? How about that? How about that? There we go. Tyro 79 is like $80. You can build a whole quadcopter for $80, $85. That's freaking amazing. So, I mean, this is clearly a great product for somebody. I don't want to say that it's good because the quality of the electronics is just there's just no way it's any good at that price. But it is at that price and it will get you in the door. So, yeah. For some people, it's the right choice. Claus Z asks, in Betaflight 402, what would cause a quad to arm itself without doing anything on the controller? Nothing. Betaflight will not arm itself without the arming channel going into the armed position. That's a fact. There is no bug in Betaflight 402 that will cause it to spontaneously arm. So if your quad seemed like it spontaneously armed, the fact is that something else happened and you got to figure out what it is. For example, it was already armed, but you had motor stop enabled and then like the throttle raised. Whatever. Nothing will cause it to spontaneously arm. But this is a very dangerous situation for you to be in, Clause Z, because even though there isn't a bug in Betaflight, you are not fully confident about what is or is not causing your quad to become armed, and you cannot be dealing with the quad with props on while that situation is in existence. It is incredibly dangerous for you to be handling and around a quad without you being 1000% confident about when it will and will not be armed. So you got to back off and figure this out. And if by some chance you found a bug in Betaflight, which I don't think you have, then let's characterize it and report it. But whatever it is, don't just go, oh, well, I guess it'll be fine, and then be posting pictures on the Rotor Riot group next week of how it chopped off your pinky finger. Take this incredibly seriously. Figure out how you got to go into the modes tab. You got to go in the modes tab. And the modes tab will tell you when it's armed. This will become yellow when it's armed. So you want to take your props off and test this out. The first thing you need to go is go to the motors tab, and you need to check this box. I understand the risks. And this will allow the quad to arm while it's plugged into USB. Normally it will refuse to arm when it's plugged into USB. Okay? Then you go to the modes tab, and when this arming mode turns yellow, that means the quad is armed. And you got to just look at your receiver, look at your transmitter, figure out what's going on and when it is and is not becoming armed. So that's the bottom line. Okay. Thank you for 40 rubles, Must Fly. Greetings from Russia. You rock, JB. Thank you. What do you think about the Johnny FPV motors on Banggood? Asks Sneak. Do you think they're fake? No, they're not. GetFPV is selling some motors on Banggood, including mine. GetFPV normally does not do a lot of distribution of their sponsored motors, but shipping from the U.S. is so expensive to other countries that they're basically using Banggood as an international warehouse. So the GetFPV motors, the Johnny motors, the Bardwell motors that are on Banggood, those are legit. GetFPV is being very cautious about this because they are concerned about counterfeits and stuff. I can tell you, the purple color on my motors actually acts as a very good counterfeit deterrent because the laser etching on the motors, they had to work so hard to find something about that purple color made the laser etching of the logo incredibly difficult. And like there was a 3-week delay. Tim Nilsson, the owner of GetFPV, was in China. He wasn't there just for my motors. He was there for business reasons. But he messaged me and he was like, I'm in China. I'm looking at the samples of your motors. We're going to figure out this laser etching thing. And I'm like, Tim, they don't have to be purple, Tim. And he's like, no, we're going to do this. And like 3 weeks later, he's like, we found a guy who can laser etch your motors. And I was like, really, Tim, you didn't have to do that. But if you get any JB motors and from Banggood and the laser etching on the bell is all effed up and looks crappy, maybe that's a counterfeit. But no, those are legit. GetFPV is distributing through Banggood. And some people are going to object to that. The fact is that for people in many international countries, other than the U.S., they just can't get shipping from the U.S. It's too expensive. And that's why they're doing it. Any chance of custom colors on JB products? I wouldn't hold out for that, Soft Art. Do I have a build list for my Marmot Junte? I do have a build list for my Marmot Junte. It's my perfect freestyle build, except instead of the Chameleon TI, I've got the Marmot. So search my channel for JB, my perfect freestyle build. Ed Williams cannot get Lua scripts to work on the QX7 and the Cinnabee. I'd like to use smart audio. I did get pit mode, the VTX with switches, blah, 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 blah. Ed Williams, smart audio is separate from telemetry and Lua script. So let's start by getting smart audio working. You want to get smart audio working in the Betaflight OSD, go Features, VTX SA, and at the top of the smart audio menu, you will see a bunch of dashes. And that tells you that smart audio is not working. When you see at the top of the VTX SA menu a bunch of dashes, smart audio is not working. You need to have smart audio working, and then you can move on to working on the Lua script. With the Cinnabee, Ed, you want to make sure that you're using a telemetry capable receiver. If you've got an XM Plus, for example, it is not capable of doing telemetry, and you cannot do Lua scripts with that. But I don't know what receiver is in your Cinnabee. Terminal LCPL, the RunCam 5 has not dropped yet. I'm just name dropping it. Let's see here. 2 motors smoked during save and reboot. What could be the cause? CRB1, saving your config cannot cause your ESCs to smoke. So what happened there is when the flight controller rebooted, the ESC tried to go doo-doo-doo or whatever it does. And that just happened to be the moment that one of your ESCs went, F you, and took a dump. So I think you just got unlucky. You had an ESC that was damaged or a motor that was damaged, and that was the moment. I mean, it's like, why did my car engine explode right at the moment that I turned the key? Well, it was just sitting there before then. It wasn't doing anything, right? It wasn't turning the key that caused it to explode. It just was ready to go, and that was the moment when it went. Like your light bulbs always burn out, for those who still have incandescent bulbs. Your light bulb always used to burn out when you flip the switch. Yeah, well, that's the moment when it burns out. Same thing with your ESC. Nothing about setting up iBus will smoke your motors, though. Mustfly says, JB, share your charging SafeBox solution, please. You're looking at it. It's three HobbyMate D6 Duos sitting on a table with a bunch of batteries plugged into them. Okay, so I know that makes me a bad person. I know that makes me a bad person. Hold on, let me get my camera back the way it was. I know that makes me a bad person, but that's what I do. The thing is, guys, I never charge with the batteries unintended. I'm always just sitting right here listening for anything that could possibly go wrong. The best charging safe box is the Bat Safe. Here's the best. This is hands down. This is hands down the best one. So do as I say, not as I do, I guess is what I'm getting at. I mean, I just got to be straight with you, to be honest. I just got to be straight with you. Here's the Bat Safe. Ooh, Bat Safe XL. This is a new one. Bat Safe has, it's fireproof, and it has these filtered baffles on the top so that the smoke, it actually gets cleaned and helps protect your environment from excess smoke. It's got venting holes. It's got a pass-through gland for cables. You could put your whole charger in here if you wanted to. This is the absolute, that's $124 for the BatSafe XL or $60 for the regular BatSafe. This is hands down the best way to store your LiPos or to charge your LiPos. This will protect better than anything. But if you are interested in a more economical solution, what you want to do is you want to get one of these metal ammo cans, about $35. It's not that much cheaper than a BatSafe, to be honest with you. You can get a BatSafe. Well, it's bigger for sure. You're going to want to get one of these ammo cans, and what you're going to do is in the lid, see if I can find an example. No. In the lid, around the edge of the lid, there is a rubber seal. And what you're going to want to do is peel it out of the sides and cut it off right here at the side so that the rubber seal goes across the front but not the sides. And the reason for that is that if you take the rubber seal out entirely, the lid won't have any tension on it and it won't close all the way. It will close all the way, but then it won't latch. But if you take the seal out of the sides, it lets the smoke get out and it doesn't build up pressure if a battery smokes. It works almost as well as the BatSafe. The difference between this and the BatSafe is the BatSafe is heat protected. So if you've got that metal ammo can sitting on a wooden surface and a battery pops off, the ammo can is going to get so damn hot. It can actually ignite stuff on the outside potentially. And the other thing is that the bat safe has filters for the smoke to help filter the smoke a little bit and protect you, give you less cleanup afterwards. But it $35 for the ammo can, $60 for the bat safe. I almost think the bat safe is a better buy. But there you go. Those are two options for you. Oh, that's a great Skadoosh. Thank you for the suggestion. David Skadoosh in the chat says, go out and get a barbecue grill, just a cheap tabletop barbecue grill, and then use that. The nice thing about the barbecue grill is it's not going to contain the smoke, but it will protect the batteries and limit the flames. Yep. Soft Art says, oxygen is food to the fire. Not with a LiPo it isn't, Soft Art. LiPos will burn underwater. LiPos will burn underwater. They are self-sustaining. They are self-oxidizing. A LiPo does not need an external source of oxygen to burn. Adding oxygen to a LiPo fire, it will potentially cause the secondary fires to be more violent. The problem with a LiPo, see, this is not actually that dramatic. The problem with a LiPo fire is that the LiPo gives off these giant gouts of flame, which then light everything else around it on fire. That's the problem. So you definitely don't want to add oxygen, but a LiPo definitely can burn without oxygen. Yeah, Sue My Chin, many people are pointing out in the chat, you can get secondhand ammo cans from like your local army surplus for like 12 or 15 bucks. So, yeah. Skadoosh says he tapes a Ziploc bag of baking soda to the lid, hence choking the smoke and fire. Careful there, David. I mean, I don't know what kind of testing you've done. The typical reason why baking soda stops a fire is that it gives off carbon dioxide. That does help stop the secondary fires, but the LiPo will keep burning. The other thing I've heard of people do is bags of sand, and bags of sand will quench the flames, will cause the flames to just kind of be smothered. That's the word I'm looking for. Smother the flames and just make it give off smoke. Okay. Alrighty. I used to charge my LiPos in a water tank, says Jildor17. Vampire 4997 wants to know why his R9 receivers won't bind. They were working, and now all of a sudden, well, something changed, right, Vampire? Did you update the firmware on your receiver or something like that? Matthew Smiley. Why are you plugging someone else's chin, you Matthew Smiley? I'm searching for the channel. Unless you are this guy, in which case you're just plugging yourself. Who is this guy? Oh, I see. That's the guy whose video I was showing. Yeah, but he has like 4 videos and 2 subscribers, so I don't think he needs his channel plugged. I'm gonna say no about that. Let's see here. The other thing I've heard, Rhinosaur says he keeps his ammo cans in the oven. Yeah, except don't start preheating that oven without taking them out. I've heard of other people who use an old stone fireplace. If your house has a stone fireplace or an oven, a wood-burning stove. There we go. A wood-burning stove. I don't know where my brain has gone. If you have a fireplace or a wood-burning stove, you can charge your batteries in there, and it will, if one of them lights off, great, it'll just go up the chimney. That's like the best case scenario, you know. Yeah. Okay. We are coming to the end here, guys. Wow, oh, it's 3:10. Even though I started 10 minutes late, we've been going for about 2 hours. I'm going to make sure to get the last couple super chats and the last couple Discord comments, and then we're going to close up. Oh, Bill Revenaugh. Bill Revenaugh, hang on, this is too good of a question to pass up. Do you really think it's important to make sure your bats are all stored at 3.6, 3.7 per cell after using? Well, first of all, Bill Revenaugh, the storage voltage for LiPos is 3.8. Not 3.6 or 3.7. If you are storing at 3.6, 3.7, you are definitely doing harm to your batteries. Do I think it's important? Yes. the further away from 3.8 volts you store your batteries, the more damage they take over time. The damage is cumulative. So if you charge your packs to 4.2 volts and then you don't fly on Saturday and you go fly on Sunday, nah. But if you leave them charged at 4.2 volts for a month, you might not notice the difference, but the difference is there. If you were to put them on a tester, the difference would be there. And eventually that they will degrade. LiPos stored at 3.8 volts at a good temperature, not like super hot or anything. LiPos stored at 3.8 volts at a reasonable temperature are shelf stable for a really long time. LiPos stored at 4.2 volts will wear out over the course of a month or two, and that is cumulative. So if you leave them charged 4.2 volts for a week and then another week and another week, eventually you get to 2 months and then it's bad. So what I try to do is use the OSD to stop flying right at about 3.8 volts per cell. That's where I want them to be. And then I'm good. But if they're at 3.7 or 3.6, I would try to get them up to 3.8 within a day or two after flying because they are taking a small amount of damage. Mustfly says, do you have a fire extinguisher you're capable of lithium battery handling? What would you do with the battery inside your house? The thing about a fire extinguisher will not put out a lithium battery fire. Nothing will. All you can do with a lithium fire is try to smother the flames and prevent secondary fires from starting. So what you want to have in terms of fire extinguishers is something that can put out all the other stuff, your drywall, your wooden table. Well, hopefully you're not charging on a wooden table, but you're just going to have a standard like AB, I think is what you want. A standard AB fire extinguisher. I'm not sure about that. Sorry, firefighters of the world. But just a standard household fire extinguisher is what you want nearby. The other thing you're going to want nearby, if you can go and get a set of fireplace gloves. They are these big, heavy leather gloves that you use for handling like burning wood in a fireplace. If I had to pick up a burning LiPo and throw it out the window, and I have a window right here, I would want a big set of fireplace gloves nearby. But yeah, that's what I do. Vasco Balu gives €5 and asks, where do you see the FPV multicopter technology in 5 years from now? What path will the hobby take? Vasco Balu, I'm going to cop out on this a little bit because here's the thing. 5 years is too long of a time frame. It's impossible to predict. For example, I'm going to tell you 2 things that I heard in the last month that could completely change all of FPV. One of the things I heard was that I heard this from, I'm not going to say who I heard this from just in case he's under NDA and then someone gets mad at him for telling me this. I heard from someone that DJI has a new high-def, digital high-def FPV system in the works that is surprisingly good. Do you remember I made the video about digital high-def being like why it won't work, and I said it's expensive, high latency, etc.? I'm not saying that DJI has solved all of those problems, but people who have used it are telling me that it is closer to solving those problems than anything we've seen before, and maybe they'll get there. If anybody could do this, I think it's DJI. But here's the thing. Do you think DJI is going to use like a Betaflight OSD? DJI is not going to talk to your Betaflight flight controller. So how is OSD going to work? What's your flight controller going to be like? If DJI puts out a digital high definition, inexpensive, DJI inexpensive, I know, right? If they put out this FPV system, it could completely change the ecosystem for FPV pretty much forever. The only thing that's holding me back on this is that knowing DJI, it's probably going to be expensive. But it could just shake the whole thing. Everything could change. Then what? I don't know. The other thing I heard was that Google Wing, Wing is a company from Google that was granted rights by the waivers or permission to operate for beyond line of sight, basically package delivery. And I thought to myself, holy crap, if something in the United States was going to kill FPV, this is what it would look like. So you ask, where is FPV going to be in 5 years? And I tell you, I don't know. In 5 years, is DJI going to have a camera and VTX system that goes 3 miles, costs $100, and has 10 millisecond latency, 1080p? Because if so, then RunCam, Foxeer, Cadex, they're all out of business. Immersion RC, LaForge, all out of business. If DJI pulls that off, we're all just going to start using it, and we won't think twice. And the whole ecosystem will change. In 5 years, is Google Wing going to be are they going to own the 100 to 400 foot airspace and going to be using that for drone deliveries? Because if so, the way we fly FPV is just going to radically change. So I don't know where it's going to be in 5 years. I don't know where it's going to be in 1 year. That's the answer. Okay, guys. Good question to go out on. Thank you guys for showing up. I want to take one moment. Stretch. Take one moment and remind you guys, for those of you who are still here on the live stream, or if you're watching the replay, that this is my full-time job. Yep, I'm right here on a Sunday afternoon hanging out with you guys, answering questions. I could not be happier. Well, okay, I could be happier. For those of you who watch Game of Thrones, if you think about how Tyrion Lannister wants to die, I could be happier, but not very much happy. And if you guys enjoy this and you want to help support me, one of the ways you can do it is by go down to the video description. There's a link to my Patreon in the video description. You can support me for $2 or more a month, and you get access to my private Discord server as a result. You can also use the affiliate links at the bottom of most of my videos. Whenever you see a video with a product in it, down in the video description, there's a link to the product. It's usually an affiliate link, and that means that if you click my affiliate link and you make any purchase, anything you buy, not just the linked item, and then I get a small commission. So just click those links before you go shopping, and it helps me out. It costs you nothing, and it means a lot. And as always, which I never tell you guys to do, but hey, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, like the videos, comment. I'm sure that matters, but it doesn't actually directly put money in my pocket. So thank you guys so much. I will see you tomorrow. Monday at 8 p.m. is my next live stream. I'll see you guys there. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks to all the guys in Europe who came out. This is the European stream. Tomorrow will just be for the U.S. people later, and the Europeans who are night owls. I'm going to stop the stream. Thanks for watching. Happy flying, everybody. Hey, if the weather's good where you are, get out and fly. There's still some more of the day. Bye, everybody.